Hello and welcome to HEROGEEK Present, where I talk all things heroic. And today I am very excited to have a very, very special guest, creator of The Colossals, one of my most anticipated indie comics. Me and Cider have been buddies for a while on Twitter. So I'm very excited to have him on the show and to talk about his comic book, The Colossals. How's it going, Cider?
It's great to be here, and I'm so glad we got those technical things out of the way, so this went nice and smooth, man. So
Yeah,
glad to be
yeah,
here.
yeah. I mean, I've been wanting to have you on for a while. I started doing this show where I'm featuring indie creators, specifically with a focus on hero stories, right? Because that's my whole shtick, right?
Yeah,
So we've had a lot of conversations on Twitter and whatnot. I know a lot about what you're trying to do, and essentially, you and I are kind of trying to do the same thing. When it
yeah,
comes to the superhero genre, right? Trying to uplift it, trying to make people remember the hero stories from the past that the big two and most of the mainstream media have forgotten about.
and doing it with like new stories, with the gripping stuff, with how Paragon Prime is dealing with his villains that aren't just cut straight out of the cloth bad guys. There's some stuff with them too. You
Yeah,
know, this is
definitely.
this is important because today a lot of the villains are just like propaganda, political
Hmm.
propaganda, cardboard cutouts. They don't feel real. You don't feel anything. That's why Thanos took over, because he had a sympathetic message and people were like, yeah, okay, right, I kind of get it now. You're not just some kooky guy on a railroad track twisting your mustache.
Yeah, precisely. Essentially, it got to the point where I could no longer just sit by and let it happen. I was complaining a lot, oh, DC and Marvel, what are they doing? What are they doing with my favorite characters? What are they doing? You know what? Enough is enough. I have to do something. I have to be the change that I want to see. If they're not going to do it, then I'm going to do it myself. I'm guessing it was something similar with you.
Yeah, like you, I grew up as a great big fan of DC and Superman in particular. And when
Hmm.
they took that character away from his core values in order to satisfy their agendas, it
Yeah.
just totally destroyed my interest in what they were offering.
Yeah, same here. And it hurts. It does hurt, and it's difficult to let go. I know a lot of people have difficulty letting go of these characters, but I see it as you don't have to let go of the characters or the past that you like, the past comics, animated series, old movies, whatever. What you loved about the characters from the past, you can still hold on to that. That hasn't changed, but as they exist right now, they're no longer the characters you grew up loving.
Well, and even if they evolved, right, they totally left the track that they could have gone on evolving those characters for modern times. They just totally turned them into political shills.
Exactly. And in the case of Marvel, that's mostly been it, pushing agendas. And
Yeah, I mean,
DC,
you remember when Superman gave up his citizenship, right?
yeah, that was a while ago, but that was a sign of things to come.
Yeah, well, talk about a political shill, right? This whole guy's thing for 40 years, 40, 50 years by that point, was truth, justice, and the American
Hmm.
way. And then you have him going like, nah, I want to be a citizen of the world. The UN has the right idea.
Mm,
Screwed that.
yeah, yeah. And that was a sign of things to come. And then yeah, with DC though, what they've embraced the whole, pushing political agendas and far left ideals and SJW stuff and all that. But another element that and I rant about this a lot on Twitter, that I do, is their embrace of the deconstruction, edgy, vulgar, violent stuff that they're doing with a lot of their iconic characters. It's been a trend, from the Snyder movies to a lot of their more recent animated films or the Harley Quinn animated
Oh,
show.
goodness.
Yeah,
Gosh.
all that trash. It's all just embracing this dark take on these characters. I gotta say, the only saving grace right now is probably Superman and Lois. I'm a big fan of the show. It's giving me iconic Superman, which I'm really excited about. And so far, 11 episodes in, it hasn't gotten incredibly woke or incredibly dark either. With this kind of thing, I kind of keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, unfortunately. Until that happens, I'm really enjoying the show. All right. But I do want to talk about your comic book. I want to talk about Star Supreme, and I want to talk about the Colossals, because I think this is a step in the right direction. You know, this is exactly what we need now. This is exactly the kind of stuff that should be coming from the genre. So, for those people who don't know a lot about the Colossals, why don't you fill us in a little bit?
The team itself is, it's meant to pick apart what your memories are of what the superheroes iconically are, right? So when you look at the team, you can identify like who's supposed to be the Superman analog, who's supposed to be the Flash analog, who's the Batman analog. But that's to get you kind of comfortable with the idea, because I chose to skip origin stories.
Mm-hmm.
With the Colossals, you're getting a team that's fully functioning. They're starting out, of course, but they're fully functioning. 10 years of history between them that they talk about. They're already in progress. You don't have to worry about a dark alley somewhere, or a field out in Kansas, or a lightning bolt hitting a chemical cabinet. We're going straight into the meat. So this team was purpose built to be exciting out of the gate. Star Supreme herself is a very unique take on what the Superman analog is, where Superman is supposed to exemplify and symbolize hope. Star Supreme takes a little bit step further, and she symbolizes faith, but not necessarily faith in God or Allah or Yahweh or Ronald McDonald, whatever you like.
Mm-hmm.
It's more the faith in a better tomorrow, because the way I believe it is that faith is something that doesn't leave you. You can scream to the heavens for it to leave you alone, but it'll be there in the morning waiting for you. And that's the way Star Supreme, her message to the world is that tomorrow, one of these tomorrows, will be better than today, and it damn sure will be better than yesterday.
Oh, that's great stuff. Yeah.
That's the purpose of that character. Throughout everything she goes through, it's the purpose to remind people is to keep going. It's dark today, but the dawn will come.
Yeah, that's exactly the kind of heroes that we need, and in a lot of ways that's how Peregrine Prime is. I know for a fact that Star Supreme is the very definition of an aspirational hero. Like,
yeah, I really sat down to really analyze what worked for Superman, what worked for parodies of Superman, what worked for deconstructions of Superman. So I understood where my boundaries were, how to stay between the lines.
Yeah, that's great. And in your definition, what makes her a genuine, selfless hero?
See, Star Supreme was told on her very first adventure, and I have a 5-page comic over on at thecolossals.com, at the Colossals on Twitter, my apologies. It's 5 pages. It's Star Supreme's very first adventure. She doesn't have her costume yet. She's in regular clothes. Her mother says to her, just before she's about to head off to save people, she says, "Save everyone you can. Not one more, not one less." And that became her motto, is that self-sacrifice is central to being a hero, but being there to save the day is also important. So what defines Star Supreme is that she loves people enough to make sure they make it home. You save everyone you can, not one more, not one less, because she has to go home at night too, because part of being a selfless hero is having people you care about. And going out and dying on the battlefield, that leaves them pretty hard up. So you got to make it home too.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that's great. That's great stuff, man. When did you really start coming up with this idea? Like how long has this been brewing?
It's a pretty dark beginning. I'm one of millions of people that suffer with Crohn's, and I've had several surgeries to reconstruct my abdomen because of that disease. The first one kind of took the wind out of my sails. I thought my life was over. I was actually willing myself to die in the recovery room, 2 a.m. in the morning, all by myself. I didn't want to live. And as I was falling into that pit, hoping and praying that the flatlined any minute, there was a hand that came out of the darkness, just metaphorical, not a real hand. But a hand came out of the darkness, and it took mine, and it said, "There, you won't fall anymore. Take as much time as you need to get back up." And it was her. That was Star Supreme. I didn't know her name at the time. I didn't know her face. I didn't know her colors. But that feeling, that voice, it was that hero that said, "It's okay. I'm not going to pull you up. You have to fight your way back up. But I'm here to make sure you don't sink.
Yeah, it was the spirit of the character.
Exactly. And like how Superman was the central point to the DC universe, Star Supreme and that message is central to the Ciderverse. All of my heroes are my demons turned into angels. Oh. Every hero you see in the Ciderverse is some horrible chapter in my life that's been flipped upside down into an aspirational moment.
Wow. That's deep. That's great. That's beautiful. If you can take the pain, that a lot of your life has been and turn it into hope and turn it into these heroes, that's incredible.
This one's a little harder to tell. Batman and Superman are sort of a central iconic duo. Mm-hmm. I wanted to kind of keep that energy with the Ciderverse, but not copy and paste it. Mm-hmm. So I created a character named Razor. And Razor's sort of the dark side of the coin to Star Supreme's light side of the coin. Mm-hmm. Razor works for the king of the demons, and King Bale. And Bale buys and sells souls and sends Razor to collect them when it's time for them to be dragged to hell and fed to Lucifer.
It's a lot like Ghost Rider in a way.
Yeah. Okay. Bit of Ghost Rider, a bit of Batman, bit of Punisher. There's a lot of angst in there.
Okay.
Razor's origin is pretty dark. I won't get into the nitty gritty of it, but his older sister dies and he's unable to protect her, and that's what causes him to ask Bale for the power of ultimate revenge. And Bale decides to use his rage as a weapon to collect on souls that it otherwise would resist. Because who wants to be drugged to hell? So they'd get all these weapons to fight back against Bale, and he wouldn't be able to collect them. So he sends Razor in, who's just fed by all this eternal rage from the horrible things that happened to him, and he's an unstoppable force.
So I see some Ghost Rider, I see some Spawn in there too a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, when I was very young, a girl that my parents were attempting to adopt was adopted by another family, and she was taken away rather abruptly. I was on my way to her house to make breakfast one morning, and she lived up the street, and the state came in a dark blue van and took her away by her ankles and her wrists. She didn't know she was being adopted. You'd think it would be some momentous occasion, but no, it was very horrible. And I didn't see her for 19 years after she was taken, but the last thing she said to me before they slammed the door was, "Don't let them take me." And I tried to find her for 19 years. Every day, Facebook, MySpace, Google, white pages. It took me 19 years to track her down. And that's where Razor's based out of. There's all that frustration, that anger, that I couldn't save her, that's where Razor comes from.
You found her though, right?
Yes, we reconnected. Some bad things happened to her, so, more of my anger was fueled because I wasn't there to protect her from that crap. But she has a beautiful, bouncing baby boy. Well, he's not a baby anymore, he's 5 years old. But man, he's just this little spitfire full of energy, and you can't help but laugh when you're around him.
Wow, so you've taken a lot of the dark chapters in your life and channeled them through your creativity. It would have been really easy for you to just continue with the darkness and tell dark stories, but what compelled you to just flip it around and turn it into something hopeful? What was that like?
It was, for me, I've always believed in a better tomorrow. It was something I learned from Superman. The man of tomorrow always spoke a different thing to me. It wasn't the man of tomorrow as the man of the future. It was the man that's going to be there tomorrow. That, I'm sorry, I gotta get a little choked up. See, right when that girl was taken away is when I found Superman. I was heartbroken, and back when, a little kid could wander the streets of a country town, I was walking around and wandered into a comic book shop, and an old man in there named Ernie. He had an Action Comics #1 way up on the top shelf. And he just saw how absolutely robbed of hope I was. And he handed me that comic and he said, "Hey, have you met Superman? My good friend, Superman." And he points to the ceiling, and up on the ceiling, there's a cardboard, I'm sorry, man. There's a cardboard cutout of Superman flying over the top, smiling down at you. And for 5 years, I laid on the floor of that comic book shop reading every Superman comic there was available to me. looking up every now and then at him flying over the top.
You were like full of these beautiful, emotional, inspirational stories, aren't you?
Yeah, it's one of those curses. I have a movie that's a lot like a life. Excuse me, I have a life. It's a lot like a movie. It sucks sometimes, but it pays off when it comes
Yeah.
to. There's a song, I think it's called "100 Bad Days Make 100 Good Stories, and 100 Good Stories Make Me Interesting at Parties."
Like that. But okay, so let's take what you've gone through and what you've turned it into.
Mhm.
Now, how do I say this? To me, that resonates more than people who deconstruct heroes because they haven't gone through half the stuff that you've gone through. But
Well,
yet,
I can't say that. Some of these guys were saw war and stuff, but again, it comes down to what your belief in the world is. If you're like Alan Moore and you're misanthropic and everyone's just awful and they're terrible and you can't wait for a meteor to hit the earth to restart all of it, of course you're going to make horrible stories that are boring and repetitive and dark. But
mhm.
when you're somebody that's chaotic like Morrison, you'll come up with some good stuff like the All-Star
All-Star
Superman
Superman,
story.
yeah.
That's how these sort of things go. The dark guys, in my opinion, they took the road that felt most genuine to them. There's a quote from the Terminator movie that anger is more effective than despair,
Mhm.
and you see a lot in like The Boys and Invincible, a lot of like real life moments where this guy wanted to take the head off of whoever it was, and so he made a comic about it. He made a comic about killing these people he never got the punch, you know?
Mhm.
You see that a lot in these stories that they didn't know how to handle their anger and their frustration, so they just made a character to exhaust it.
But my question is, why do it with superheroes? Why do it with the genre that's inherently opposed to that approach? In my opinion, anyway.
Because Batman putting Joker in the cuffs isn't enough for these guys. They want a gun to his head and Joker's brains blasted out all over the streets of Gotham. That's what they want. That's a conclusion for them. That's satisfaction. That's justice.
And I get that, but why? Why do they? Well, I think I know why. I mean, I've ranted about this before, but I think that people think morality is relative and it's a social construct. So, and they
I
can't
no.
handle. What's that?
No, I was agreeing with you. It's not a social construct. It's not
No,
universal. You'll
no.
meet somebody that absolutely thinks it's okay to drown kittens.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the problem with I think a lot of people is that they don't want to aspire. They don't want to try to be a better person. They need to bring down these symbols of heroism and of selflessness in order to make themselves feel better. And companies like Marvel and DC are totally catering to that.
Well, and you've also got a nasty intersection where you've had these characters around for close to 100 years now, and they just don't have anywhere to go anymore. So they'll say, like, I need ideas for Thor. And they're like, okay, well, let's cut his arm off, take his hammer away, and give it to Jane Foster. And they're like, well, what the heck? That's new. Why not? It's something that's different. We haven't done that in 10 minutes. So let's give his hammer to Jane Foster. And away they went.
Yeah.
That's the reasoning now is that, my God, it's an idea that's different. So we'll just do it. It doesn't need to make sense. It doesn't need to be wholesome to the character. It doesn't need to be a natural evolution. It's just different.
Yeah. And different is not always bad. I mean, with Superman, what they did with him during Rebirth by giving him a son, Jonathan Kent, and
Yeah.
that was good. That was what I wanted to see from the character. And that was an evolution of Superman that made sense to who he was as a character.
About time.
That was
It took
amazing.
long enough. It
It's
took
yeah,
long enough to get
it
there.
it
Yeah.
took long enough to get there, but yeah, that was an evolution, something new for the character that just felt organic and natural. And I completely embraced that. And then they brought in Bendis and he just obliterated all of that.
Yeah. That's his job.
Um, back, way, way, way back when Marvel did One More Day with Spider-Man, that just took the idea of Peter Parker and Mary Jane starting a family and just destroyed it too because Joe Quesada just wasn't having like no, we can't have Spider-Man be happily married. And no, we're gonna have to just throw a wrench in that because we have to keep the status quo. We have to keep him young. No. I mean, and I read a lot of the Spider-Girl comics,
Yeah,
where
Mayday.
Mayday Parker. Yeah, and I love that. And that would have been incredible. That would have been an evolution of Peter Parker that I would have loved to have seen. But Marvel took that away from us.
Yeah, and then Symbiote that was born out of interacting with Mayday, a whole different. I think it was Tempest. Was that one that was born out of her? That was a clone of her,
Mhm.
the Hydra Man style. That was a whole interesting new take on the clone saga. It was sort of a revisiting, but with Mayday, it just added a completely new level to it. And Peter getting swallowed up into that. It was a great family story where Peter had to like really lay down the law with like how much he loved his daughter and how much he loved being a superhero. What was the difference there?
They're afraid to allow the characters to grow and evolve.
Well,
Yeah.
they can't have Peter Parker banging Mary Jane, banging Shadow Cat, excuse me, Black Cat, and banging Gwen Stacy when she's not dead or from another universe. They can't do that if he's married. They can't do that. If they do that, then that diminishes who Peter Parker is as a hero. So they got to keep all this sex appeal for the character. So they can't marry him off. He's got to be a playboy like Tony Stark, Because when you think Spider-Man, you think playboy, right?
No, not at all. No, I know
Of course not.
I know you're being sarcastic there, but yeah.
Sarcastic.
No. Peter Parker is a good man who's into monogamy, who was raised by Aunt May and Ben Parker, who were a loving couple. That was his example of what marriage is. So why wouldn't he want the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, and again, I mean, like you look at what Peter Parker grew up with as a home life. Why wouldn't he be craving that? I want to be a dad because I didn't get to have one. It just seems totally opposite of what a real. Again, it's comics. I get it, but you can't keep Peter Parker 16 years old for 50 years. It's a little ridiculous.
It's very ridiculous. Right before One More Day, one of my favorite runs on Spider-Man was the J. Michael Straczynski run, where he was a high school science teacher. Actually, that's where I got the idea to make Duncan Dobbs, which is Paragon Prime's civilian. Yeah. That's where I got the idea of having him be a high school science teacher, was from that run of Spider-Man comics.
If they only knew, right? If they only knew those little careless things that they did, those little one-off things that pained them so to create, had been so influential to people out there. If they only knew, right?
If they only knew, yeah. And that was great stuff. He was married to MJ, and it was really, really great stuff. And then One More Day happened, and like, oh well, there goes that. There goes the possibility of great stuff happening with a character, of seeing Peter Parker as a father,
right? And same problem is that I know I go back and I know I don't have a lot of fans on this one, but I don't think Batman's cut out to be a dad. I don't think that's a character that really belongs in the realm of fatherhood. Being being like an adoptive father is fine, but like being a dad, I think that's a bridge too far for Bruce. I think that's too much to ask of that character.
He already had sons. I mean, Dick Grayson was his son. Tim Drake.
Yeah. Stephanie Brown was sort of his daughter.
Stephanie Brown, yeah. Barbara Gordon,
that got weird.
But we have Bruce Timm to thank for that whole weird.
Yeah, it's true.
And I respect what he gave us with the DC animated universe, but that whole thing is weird and is creepy, and I do not like it.
Yeah, you see this too. I think there was a Twitter post about it the other day. Nightwing is the most sexually harassed character in comics.
Yeah, what is that about?
Like, that's the old switcheroo. You got to remember, these third wavers, they don't want equality. They want superiority. They want to flip the table, so you're stuck with all the stuff that they think existed.
It's so bizarre. Mm-hmm. It's creepy. It's cringy. And
well, let me ask, what was so wrong with Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon settling down? I know that Dick went off with Starfire, but
yeah,
what was so wrong with
nothing?
With Dick and Barbara?
It's funny because a buddy of mine, Anime Sparkster, he's a big fan of Dick Grayson with Starfire, and that's fine. But I've always I've always thought he belonged with Barbara Gordon. That's just
They just fit. They're good opposites.
Yeah, it fits.
You know,
They understand each other. They both worked under Batman, so they understand. They have that commonality.
they were great opposites. You had Dick, who wanted to show off and do all these great stunts and kick lots of butt. Then you got Barbara, who wanted to analyze every last crack in the road. The great opposites. The two of them could have been an awesome team that could have gone on and had like their own little Bat family on their own. But
Yeah,
nope.
it's funny because one of my least favorite Batman stories led to one of the better aspects with Barbara Gordon. I'm not a big fan of the Killing Joke, just saying, but I
Right.
like her as Oracle.
Yeah, it's one of those trade-offs, right? Where like what happened was really crappy, but what it led to was really awesome.
Yeah, I thought it was a great evolution for the character. It's just really, really, really. I love that.
And
But anyway,
why couldn't she have been Oracle when she was pregnant, right? What would have stopped her from being a mom and being Oracle and then returning to the field when her children were old enough? What was wrong with that?
nothing is wrong with that. That's the thing. These people don't allow their characters to evolve, which brings me. This is something that I'm going to do with Paragon Prime. He's going to get married. He's going to have a family. That's just the way that I
Good.
want to do it. And with Star Supreme, that's the way you're doing it too, right? I mean,
Yeah, she has an adopted daughter and then an adopted son, and then she gets married and has bio babies, biological children with him.
that's great. That's amazing. You're evolving your character. You're not keeping them stale. You're not keeping them stuck in the same place just to maintain the status quo because you're afraid people won't like it. No. You have to trust that people are gonna respond to the choices you make with the character.
And I made a decision really early on with all of this that I wanted Star Supreme to be a message to the future that it's okay to be a mom. You could take your time, do your career, go off and do everything that you really want to do, but it's okay to be a mom too. And when she meets her husband, that's a lesson that he learns, is it's okay to take the armor off and just be a dad.
And he's from the future, I think you mentioned, right?
Right, far distant future where and he's like the last living being, so he has so much to learn, and that's really what I wanted to do for guys, so that when they read this comic, they were like, yeah, I do feel kind of isolated and different. It's difficult for me to fit in, but here's this character, like getting kind of like notified of the world and comfortable with humans through Star Supreme, who's sort of his escort into humanity and being around people. And so he can take his armor off and be vulnerable and eventually get comfortable with being a father as the responsibility comes upon him.
Okay, let's go down the list of characters you have for the Colossals. We've talked a lot about Star Supreme, but I want to talk about what her powers are.
Like I said, she's a Superman analog, so Star Supreme has the classic super strength, super speed, the capability of flight. Where she differs is that unlike Superman, she can't go out into space, she can't breathe in space. Unlike him, she needs to eat and sleep and drink water within 3 days, or she will go into shock and die like a regular human. The difference with her, too, is that she has a third helix DNA, triple helix DNA, and that third helix, that draws in protons from the sun, and that's where she gets her powers. Like, unlike Superman, where he's got that, they tried saying that like Kryptonians weren't actually super strong. It was like Jean Grey, but when they touched things, it allowed them to pick them up and have like super powerful punches and stuff. They tried that for a little while when Supergirl showed up with the Sunstones, but with Star Supreme, she is raw power. She's always super powerful. So unlike Superman, you can't run your fingers through her hair. Her hair is like a razor, cuts through bone like wire through clay. When you go to shake her hand, it's like grabbing a warm stone. She can't feel the wind unless it's some type of tempest. She's always super. I made that decision. It was really annoying to me that Superman would come home from a fight with like Darkseid, going toe to toe with Darkseid, and Ma Kent would pinch his cheek, and I was like, "What the heck is that? He just fought a god, and she's pinching his cheek. What? No." So I said, no, that's impossible with Star Supreme. So she's always super, and that's a good thing and a bad thing for her. But She doesn't differ too far from Superman except in one very major area.
Okay.
If you're not familiar, in Dragon Ball Z, there's this thing called the fusion dance. It causes two characters to come together into one. And so I took that concept. The original Star Supreme is several thousand years old, and she wanted to take over the planet. And she was punished for that by being turned into a baby and having her soul pulled from her body. So only one little spark was left behind, and that spark was the desire to love humans. And it grew into what Star Supreme is. When they finally met up again later on, they merged back together into Star Supreme. So you have Superman plus Superman. That's how powerful Star Supreme is. It's not to me that she's a Mary Sue, but it's two life forces smacked together. So you have this powerhouse of a superhero. It's always super with this massive legacy she's trying to escape. So
she's
those are her powers.
So she's an alien?
Yes, yeah. She comes from a planet called Erdata, which was unlike Krypton. 400 survivors made it to Earth, but she was the one who evolved the third helix. She was the last child of a race of people that were through radiation enabled to have children. I can't remember the word right now. But they were made and able to have children. And so she was the last one born to them with a third helix, making her the most powerful of them.
Okay, gotcha. And we've already spoken a little about Razor. Why don't you tell us about some of the other members of the Colossals?
Sure. Hypercussion, he's the fellow with the visor and the blue and red costume. Like the Flash, he's super fast, but that's where it sort of differs. Hypercussion has the ability to travel between universes when he reaches his top speed, instead of time. Rather than just simply being super fast, he can also shoot compressed sound waves out of his palms. That's why his name is Hypercussion. This was a purpose is that I noticed in the Flash comics, it was always very hard for Wally and Barry to change direction when they were going. They'd have to make a loop around the Earth in order to make a right turn. So I decided with Hypercussion that he could stop running, put his hands down below his knees, and blast a sound wave that would allow him to change his direction rapidly. And when his feet hit the ground again, he could start running in that direction he wanted.
Oh, that's very cool. I liked it quite a bit, yeah.
Solavera, she's the one that's purple there with the flaming head. She's actually made out of dark star material. And I based her power set off of what I observed with the Green Lanterns is her fire that she generates, it doesn't have to be hot unless she wants it to be. And it can be shaped into like chains, swords, guns, that sort of thing. She just needs to know how it works.
She can create constructs out of it.
Out of her fire, yes. Yep. It doesn't necessarily just have to burn. It can also be like a cup or whatever, sort of like the Green Lantern powers.
All right.
Sola's skin is made out of dark star material, but if she's pierced, for instance, like with a knife or a bullet, there's just blood and bone in there. Isaac, the little robot fella, the cute little robot guy, he's Star Supreme's adopted son. He's only been with her for about 5 years now. He is the world's first electronic life form. A bit of the backstory on him is that he was an unborn child, and he was scanned into what I call the inner, which was the Matrix, and it was done to save his life during an emergency situation. He evolved and was born in the inner as the first electronic life form. Later on, he was transferred by force into this robot body, and his original purpose, was to kill Star Supreme. But being an innocent little boy, he couldn't bring himself to do it.
Okay. So how old is he?
With him, he's 11 years old.
Okay.
He has an assortment of laser blasters from both of his hands transform into blasters, missile banks, and from the central point at the top of his head, the big antenna at the top of his head, there's a neutron beam. The neutrons are meant to disable Star Supreme's protons, make her weak, like the red sun radiation.
Okay. So with him, very Mega Man or Astro Boy vibe.
Yeah. Done in the vein of like a shonen character, very shonen jump, kind of want to find out what I can do. I have this robot body. I'll push it to the extremes. I'm a good guy. I want to be just like my mom when I grow up. And
then there's one of the more interesting characters, which is Shadow Spinner.
Shadow Spinner is my take on the Spider-Man thing. Unlike Spider-Man, of course, she doesn't get her powers through radiation. She's born like this.
Mhm.
Shadow Spinner has two giant spider legs coming out of her back that are always there constantly. She folds them up into what like a backpack sized formation, but that's as small as she can make them
Mhm.
on her body. Um, she was born to in Siberia to a mother that didn't understand her biology, and so
Like,
she was rejected.
yeah,
And
is she like a mutant in the sense of like the X-Men?
in my setting, I decided that superheroes are sort of mutants in the sense that they are human beings, but they are different than humans. Beyond appearance, they differ wildly. So
Okay.
with her, her appearance is very jarring. She's bald, pointed ears, sort of like Nosferatu. I based some of her design off of Nosferatu, that black and white vampire from back in the day.
Yeah, but you cutened it up a bit from what I've noticed.
Well, yeah, she's not meant to be terrifying. 'Cause she is just a little girl. Well, she's not a little girl. She's 17 years old, but she is just a girl. She's not a monster like her grandfather tried to turn her into. The caveat with her is that she doesn't drink blood, even though she has fangs. She eats magic, dark
Oh,
or light magic, and
okay.
so because of her youth, where she was used as a disposal method for her grandfather's tortured victims, she ended up being diabetic. So she has to be very careful with how much action she sees in a regular day before she's able to, eat and recharge and eat magic. Um, she
So
also has what? Oh, go ahead.
so how is she provided with magic to eat?
Well, this is where Delilah comes in.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Delilah Church is my sorcerer supreme
Yeah. And
character.
I have to
She's
say,
a kind-
she's one
huh?
of your most complicated characters.
Yes, she is. Yeah, Delilah. I'll save you the giant backstory on her, but Delilah is essentially the sorceress. She's immortal, and she provides the team with sort of that mysticism that Doctor Strange
Hmm.
does, but on a more dispassionate level, I guess. Um, she's the one who she's sort of a magic hoarder. She's decided that her job in this world is to make sure that magic doesn't fall into anyone's hands but hers.
Okay.
So she collects all of this, and through that, she's able to dispose of spells by having Shadow Spinner eat them. So she'll charge up a like a pocket watch with a time-stopping spell, and
Uh-huh.
then Shadow Spinner can bite the watch and drink the magic out of it.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a great cast of characters for a superhero team. And I know there's a lot. There's so much more
Oh
that
yes.
CiderHype is that has told me to the point where it almost made my head explode. Honestly,
They call me
um,
the Tolkien of indie comics.
yeah, it's dense. It's a dense universe, but one that I'm very interested in finding out. Um, so I think that's enough for
Yeah.
for like what you need to know for the Colossals and whatnot. And then the story for the Colossals is that the team faces off against evil clones of themselves, right?
Yep. That's how I handle introducing you to the heroes, is they're up against opposites of themselves.
Yeah, yeah, and then you have them go up against really cool shark monsters at an aquarium or something, right?
Oh yes, yep. The story opens with them having to fight giant shark monsters because 2021 is the year of the shark monster.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it sounds amazing. Really, really, the artwork looks incredible.
Oh yeah, let me plug that guy. Leandro Pagani Bon is an amazing artist, and not only has he started out doing amazing work for the Colossals, but he's cranked it up to a 15 out of a possible 5. This guy is on overdrive for this book, man.
Yeah.
I found a colorist too that's some kind of like Super Saiyan colorist. Like it's amazing, this team that's kind of fallen together here, man.
Okay, so how many volumes or stories do you have planned for the Colossals?
6 so far.
So that would be 6 graphic novels, six,
Yeah,
right?
6 graphic novels that are yes, yep.
So 6 volumes of graphic novels, and each volume is about roughly how many pages?
This first one's going to be 57 pages of content, 64 in total. So they'll probably follow that formula, maybe more. I probably won't go less because I really struggle to tell a short story.
Okay, okay. And then I know that you have spin-offs on top of spin-offs.
Oh, yes. Yep. Number 2 is full of them.
Yeah. Okay. So volume 2 is full of them. Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm just pulling the lever, man. You're getting the Ciderverse full force in number 2.
Okay. And I know you have plans to have Star Supreme stories.
Yeah, oh,
Uh,
everyone gets a solo adventure. Every one of these colossals, they have each of them has their own title, which 5 issues are for each title. So all these characters have their own extensive backstories and independent
yeah.
stories to tell.
Yeah. In other words, you have enough for maybe 15, 20 years of stories.
Yeah, right now. Yep,
Yeah.
probably.
Probably. Yeah, it's great stuff though. I love that you're, telling stories about heroes. That's what we need. Cider is always tweeting out these insanely inspirational tweets. I was like, oh wow, yeah, that lit a fire in me.
It just comes to me, man. Sometimes it just comes to me.
Yeah.
I did want to say this that I want to give credit to My Hero Academia,
Hmm.
who's really, really, really pulling the weight mainstream wise and telling stories about good people doing good things goodly. It's really a story that's doing its best to tell a really aspirational hero story, and I got to tell you that I'm really glad that we have people like the creators of that out there.
Yeah, All Might is my guy. I love that
Yes.
character so much to the point where I kind of want to see a prequel manga or anime that's all about All Might. Please make that
Yes.
happen.
Yes. Yes. That
Because
movie was not enough. That few minutes in the beginning of him being young was not
yeah, that
enough.
was not
We gotta have
enough.
more.
I gotta have more All Might. And I'll admit, since he stopped being All Might on the anime, I kind of stopped watching. I'm gonna eventually get back to it because I think Deku is a really really great character. But I really latched on to All Might on the show,
Hmm?
and once he kind of went away, my interest level dropped, sadly. But one of these days, I'm gonna get back to it. I'm sure that it's still an amazing show, and it still has a
Hmm?
lot of amazing characters that are not All Might. It's just
I'll tell you that the story is very much still about passing the torch, but the problem is that the torch has been passed a little late. So that's the big part of the story. So All Might transitions from being the guy that stops the train to teaching Deku how to stop the train.
yeah. But please give us an All Might prequel movie,
Yes.
anime, um,
I take a video
or
game, just more of this
more.
guy.
I just want more All Might. That's all I need. All Might is a huge, huge influence and inspiration for Paragon Prime, and I'm guessing also for Star Supreme.
Well, I got to tell you, it's pretty personal. The injuries that All Might sustained kind of mirror mine, and the stuff that happened to him kind of mirror what happened in my life.
Yeah,
So it's not like I was a superhero or anything, but
but he resonates with you on a deep level.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly
yeah,
connects the dots.
yeah. This show is all about featuring indie creators who are telling aspirational hero stories,
Yep.
and you're one of the first ones that I saw that was like like wow, this guy gets it. This guy, you get it. You understand what stories that people need to hear. Now, have you encountered a lot of resistance from anybody?
Just on the general appearance of Star Supreme, for instance, there's a lot of people that think 16-year-old cheerleader body style is the way to go for female superheroes. Standard, no deviation. I'm a little different, so
Uh,
that's where we came into some problems. But everybody's really kind of excited about it. Most people who take a look at it are like, "Okay, I'll give it a shot." So I haven't really met a lot of resistance to the Colossals beyond, we prefer Star Supreme to have more sex appeal.
oh, really? No, that's gonna happen. A lot of
Over time, you never know. I'm willing to evolve the character. She may change her costume, but nothing grotesque or over the top.
yeah. Obviously, that's not the kind of character you want her to be.
Exactly.
Her body type reminds me a lot of She-Hulk.
Well, she is 6'4", so I mean, like she and She-Hulk aren't too far apart on that front.
And I'm talking classic She-Hulk, not this new trash that Marvel is giving us right now.
Oh man, did you see that red She-Hulk, the
Oh
winter?
god.
Oh my gosh, the refrigerator of a woman.
I
Goodness.
just I just can't. I just can't.
That's not the
Um,
direction I want to go with Star Supreme. She's only muscular because it upset me that Supergirl could bench press oil tankers, and it just didn't look right to me. Somebody
mhm.
lifting that stuff should look like they could lift that stuff.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
all.
with Star Supreme, she looks strong and fit, but still feminine.
Yes, that's really been what I've tried to harness here. Is still a woman in there, but she can lay the hurting on you
Yeah. Yeah. So this team has been operating for about 10 years, right?
individually.
Okay.
Through Star Supreme, they've had adventures with her and their own adventures, but this story is just 6 months into them being a team. They're very fresh. This is the very first huge major conflict that they've ever faced as a team.
Okay. So it's a lot like the pilot episode of Justice League the cartoon in a way.
Yeah, yeah. When the White Martians invaded, yes, it has lot of that kind of energy there. But it's not so much that the team's being put together in that episode. It's that they're showing off. They're doing the whole political, got to make a show thing, introduce the team, and then it's interrupted by all this chaos.
Now, what influences did you draw from specifically?
When I sat down to write this first issue, I sat down and I really just wanted to tell a story about self worth. So
Okay.
I sat down and I took a look at like what they put Thor Odinson through in those comics where he lost his arm and his hammer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I thought about like what kind of challenges would these characters go through. So a lot of noble causes is a story that gets kind of compared to the Colossals a lot when I talk about what the core influences are.
Mm-hmm.
So like noble causes has a lot of the plot was there, but the characters drove the story. And I pulled a lot from anime because truthfully, I want to make sure that the comics that I write and create have like something different about them. They're not your average, this is what I thought 1970s comics should look like. I want them to have like that Eastern passion.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I've noticed a lot that you take a lot of elements from Western superhero comics, and you take a lot of elements from anime and from Sentai shows like Power Rangers. I know you're a huge Power Rangers fan,
yeah, see right
so
on the
I
cover.
know I know you take a lot from that, and there's a lot of characters in your verse that are very much inspired by Power Rangers.
Hmm. And
Um,
that's those stories. That's where a lot of the influence comes here. Is that of course in every Power Ranger series there's a clone team that's evil and
mhm.
whatnot, and they got to defeat them.
Uh-huh.
I really base that. I think if you ever seen Power Rangers SPD,
Yes.
there's
Yeah.
A Squad led by Charlie. She's an evil Red Ranger. And they have to defeat them, and that's where I got a lot of the sense of worthiness from.
Mhm.
Was like, am I worthy to win this fight? Should these evil guys, because they got the right idea, maybe the universe should be under a singular control. You know that kind of that kind of finding your reason for fighting this fight is
Mhm.
where I based a lot of the inspiration for the Colossals first issue from.
Yeah, and this it's a really cool mix of Western superhero tropes and iconography along with a lot of Japanese, Kamen Rider, Power Rangers, anime, shonen stuff.
Energy.
Yeah, yeah. Um, great stuff. I mean, I know you have your own Power Rangers team in your universe. What are they called?
Vehicle Team 5,
Vehicle
and
Team
they'll be
5.
featured. Yep, they're in number one. You'll meet them in
Yeah.
number one.
And their Vehicle Team 5 is a mix of Power Rangers and Thunderbirds, right?
Yep. Yeah, they're strictly a rescue team. There is no offensive capabilities to this team whatsoever.
And then you have an actual Sentai team too, don't you?
Yeah, I have quite a few. The rescue soldiers are what I call the Power Rangers in my series, and as you know, the Power Rangers have various teams. So,
Hmm.
like same with the rescue soldiers. So you have the VT5 that you'll meet in number one, but then you'll meet the multiverse Power Rangers called the Tri Souls in
Uh-huh.
number two.
That's right. And that's one of the alternate covers you have for Colossals 1, right?
No, no, there's no variant covers for number one. Straight up collector's edition. This is going to get one first edition print on it, then there'll be a second cover for wherever it gets sold the second time around. I
Okay,
don't want to do.
so what was the cover I saw where like two Power Rangers
Yeah,
looking character.
that's number one. Those are the
Oh,
rescue
okay.
soldiers. That's Vehicle Team 5. That's where the 5 is on their chest.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Got it. I understand now. Okay. And it's cool you got a vocalist to do a theme song, right?
Yep, I found a very, very passionate lady over in the Czech Republic, and she put together a comic book theme song that'll melt your face.
Now, did you find her on Fiverr? Because that's kind of where I'm finding a lot of really talented people
Yes.
that I'm working with.
When I'm looking for creative talent, logo generation or theme songs, animation, that sort of thing, I go to Fiverr.
Mhm.
That place has a massive, massive library of people that are, of course,
Yeah.
very talented, as the theme
I
song demonstrates.
I use Fiverr for the Mobile design. I use someone from Fiverr on that.
There's a crap ton of resources out there. You really don't have to hunt on Twitter to find your guy. You can go on to Fiverr, you can go on to all these other freelancer websites and find the
Yeah.
right guy for it. Because that's what I did. I took a year to find the right team to bring this to life in the way I saw it in my head. So don't rush.
No,
Take your
no.
time.
Yeah, definitely take your time. Find the right artist. I found Facundo on ArtStation actually.
Exactly. Yep. Look
You know.
there. That's an excellent resource for guys. You got a great email connection to them. They'll give you their rates and their
Mhm.
availability. Most of the people on there are very, very, very friendly and ready to help and ready
Yeah.
to work.
The problem. Okay, so like, the problem with like a website like DeviantArt is don't go to DeviantArt. Don't waste your time on DeviantArt. I mean, you might get
I
lucky.
would hesitate. I would hesitate to use DeviantArt. Yeah.
Yeah. Just I know that that's the easy one and that's the one that a lot of people know about, but it's the wrong one.
Again, you might strike gold there, but I just wouldn't start with DeviantArt. You're gonna end up with a lot of people that think diapers are part of a costume.
Yeah, a lot of weird people. I was ripped off twice.
Crap.
People on DeviantArt are not looking for jobs. They're not looking for gigs. They're just looking to show off their art. You know.
Yeah, and sometimes that comes with an ego. And
Yeah. You go to websites like ArtStation or what was the one you told me about?
Artists and the letter N clients.com, but it mostly deals with Eastern artists.
Yeah, that's a great website to find an artist and a lot of affordable artists too that do great art for affordable prices.
Right.
You know?
They're interested in working, right?
Yeah. Fiverr is also a great place to find artists that are affordable.
Exactly.
And you could find anything on Fiverr. You could find vocalists, composers.
There's game developers on there. There's people
Yeah.
on there that for a few $1,000s, they'll put together a demo that you can show your investors.
Yeah.
There's resources for creators out there, guys. You don't have to sweat it out on Twitter and try to find a guy like that or gal. There are resources where there are people that want to work and don't want to hold their ego over your head. It's okay.
Yeah. Now let me ask you a question. Do you edit your own work or do you have an editor?
I have an editor and I don't have an editor. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
I have people that read my stuff and report back to me. I worked with an editor for a little while, but due to like real life stuff, it fell out. But I have made sure that this makes sense to more than just me. Don't worry. I've passed it around to some. I won't name drop because that's not what I want to do here to try and get like favors or whatever. But the people that have been collecting comics and are in and out of the indie sphere themselves have looked at this, lifelong collectors, and they say it's very dense. It's going to take you a couple times to get everything that's in the story. You're going to have to read it a couple times to get everything. It's not confusing. There's just you're going to miss stuff the first time through because there's so much in there. But it makes sense and it pulls at your heartstrings.
All right, that's all I want. I mean, I just want to feel something. I want to. If you're telling a hero story, make me feel it. Some of my favorite moments from comics, movies, whatnot about superheroes is that feeling.
There's a really simple one, right? There's a really simple one, and a lot of people can point to it. It catches you pretty quick, right? You might not see it right immediately, but in Superman Returns, when he's holding that half a yacht to keep it from sinking, that's one of those emotional moments. And you brain that you didn't see it, but your brain did, right?
Yeah.
You can feel the weight of that yacht and how hard he's trying to hold on to it. It's falling apart, and he's losing his grip. They're hoping and praying he's got it long enough, and you can feel every second of that ship almost sinking. That's good. That's good storytelling.
That's
right
good.
there.
And oftentimes I'll get more emotional investment from a superhero rescue scene than a superhero fight scene.
Yeah, look at how numb the fight between Zod and Superman is in Man of Steel. It's just numb.
Well, that whole movie is dumb, but
It's true, but the fight scene itself, like this one guy is fighting for the survival of his race, and then this other guy is fighting for the survival of his adopted race. You should feel something about that, but all you get is like, haha, they're wearing pajamas.
oh, and oh, he's just punching Zod through building that probably have thousands of people.
Even Goku takes the fight away from populated areas. Come on.
Yeah, but these are the people that he's supposed to care about, right?
Exactly. I'm fighting to save you. Well, get away from that building I just knocked over.
Yeah, yeah.
In here, you have these moments that are telling about who these heroes are and what they're all about and why they're fighting these fight instead of just giving in to what the bad guys want.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. I know you don't have, Man of Steel moments in there.
No, man, that movie just makes me sick.
That makes me sad. But yeah, I'm. So when are you launching the Indiegogo?
You know what? I can't put a date on it right now because I'm obsessed with perfection and I'm trying to get all these character bios up so you guys know who these characters are before you even hit back.
Okay.
I don't want anybody getting blind into this because there's so many creators before me that made huge mistakes and people were mad because they had misconceptions about the characters and whatnot. I want to make sure that the campaign is perfect on the technical level and perfect on the presentation level, so you know exactly the kind of story you're getting.
Gotcha. I mean, I think I pretty much know what to expect at this point, so I'm on board already.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
I'm gonna be there on day one. How many tiers do you plan to have, by the way?
I'd like to keep it at 4. I know that any more than that, it gets a little confusing and difficult to choose for people, and I want to make sure this is nice and quick.
Yeah. Any plans for art prints or posters or something like that?
Yep, that's part of what I'm working on to make sure that everything is nice and perfect, presentation-wise and technical-wise.
Yeah.
And it's all just coming down to making sure that the legal stuff is in order, that's all. I don't want anybody getting the wrong idea about why I'm selling art.
One cool thing is I actually did a solid for CiderHype here. I had a composer that I knew actually compose a theme for Star Supreme.
Yes.
And that was really cool. I really love doing that, and I've done it with a couple of other people. I did it with Claylex with his Clayman character, which is another great comic that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, really fun character.
Yeah, really fun character. And I'm kind of obsessed with having a multi indie character kind of crossover event. And I've spoken to several other creators, and they're into it. And you're open to working something out, right?
Absolutely.
Right. Yep. Yeah, I would love that. That'd be really cool. Hoping to soon commission a crossover art between our characters.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll work it out, man. I'm I appreciate you doing this on the show in front of your audience too. That's very kind of you. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, and I'm probably gonna do a review of Colossals when it comes out.
I hope so.
But yeah, I think that's good for now. It was a pleasure having you on, and stay tuned for the next episode of HEROGEEK Presents, where I will be featuring another indie creator who has a passion for telling hero stories. Okay? Later.